Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope everyone is safe and well. Sabu and I are enjoying the humidity in the suburbs of Pennsylvania, and we are so excited to be hosting this conversation with Kat Cunning today. They are such an incredible human being, such a just mind-blowingly creative and imaginative performer and artist, and I cannot wait to share this lovely human being with everyone. So without further ado, I'm going to have Kat join us.
Hi!
Hello.
How's it
What's
going?
up? How are you?
I'm so good. Look, I hung a flag for this moment.
Oh my gosh, you're putting me to shame with this boring ass
It's
background
okay.
of my porch
Everyone
wall.
belongs in the rainbow, even, you know,
You're
the
right. You're
light.
right. Yes. Well, I love your pride flag. Not gonna
Thank you.
lie, definitely caught my eye, but
You know, had to
so
have a
Kat,
backdrop.
yes, it always is. So I would love to have you introduce yourself and then by sharing your name, your pronouns, any identity terms that you use for yourself. Yeah, go right
Okay, great.
ahead.
I am Kat Cunning. I am a non-binary person who prefers they, them pronouns. And, you know, any of the wonderful compliments like super, super handsome, king of heaven, Jesus Christ himself. Um, and I am a singer-songwriter, actor, etc.
Wow. So impressed. I I can't even. And so Kat, I wanted to ask you, I I have seen so many people just being like, King, 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 like that's my dad, like yeah, like let's go. And
Oh
so
yeah,
are you
dad. I forgot to say, obviously,
you like
dad.
dad? Okay, cool. So because as a non-binary person or like as non-binary people, there's such a misconception that oh, like all non-binary people are the same or like we all have the same identity and it's like we are so different.
Yeah,
And so like
so true.
your non-binary identity, you like those more like masculine or like typically assigned men type terms.
Yes, I really do. I think that like at the end of the day, I don't feel ready fully to abandon like either of the gender expressions. And so I also don't feel able to commit to either of them. And that's why I sort of land with non binary. But I definitely really appreciate masculine celebrating terminology. It excites me. Like anytime somebody's like, mama, aunt, I'm like, no,
You're like, you're not talking
uncle,
about me.
dad. Yeah. Or like,
Like, but I
queen. Like
am
it's always
your
really
father.
sweet. Yeah, I'm your father. And like, I think what I love so much about that like idea and that identity like that came out for me, like I started playing with that as part of my like artist identity before I even did like think about what how I identify with my actual gender. And dad started happening to me because I actually had the joy of working in a strip club for a brief moment as a singer, not a stripper, but
Oh, gosh
I
darn.
own it. It was a very cool strip club.
What's
So that was like,
awesome?
yeah,
Live music at a strip club?
yeah, it was like a very, very cool high-end strip club experience that had like a sexual circus evening cabaret show before dancers. And it was like the best time of my life. Like I worked with such cool performance artists and like we made acts that were sexual and touched on like different fetishes and stuff without necessarily just being like stripping. And I would sing and stuff. And anyway, the strippers and some of the performance artists started calling me dad because I would show up in like my clothes, which are like joggers and like a polo and just like so lo-fi. And then I would obviously like transform into something super effeminate for my stage performance. And for me, that's always like felt sort of like a drag expression of femininity. It's not like that's how I feel like I look or am. It's like a heightened form of expression. So anyway, and then I was like, I want to play with that. Like, I love that idea. And I love my dad. He's a great guy. And I think that most people, when most people think about like dad versus daddy, which I'm like totally into both, but like
Yeah.
dad, but dad is like especially exciting because it's like dad's like a good dad. It has like bad jokes, is totally harmless, and does not really get fashion. And all of those things sort of apply to my actual everyday personality.
You just like attach that label to your soul. You're like, it was just made this way.
Yeah, and I actually have a piece of merch, which is a long sleeve shirt with, you know, the picture of my, like, from one of my records, and then the back of it says, Cunning is my dad. And my dad just received this shirt in the mail, and he was like, I have to tuck it in because you're not my dad. And I was like, come on, Dad, rock it. So he's gonna.
That is so precious. I love that. Oh my gosh. And also, it's just like, I love that we're like touching. I'm also so nervous right now because I have like been listening to your music on repeat for literally the entire quarantine since I like discovered that your music is out in the world. I like legitimately have a rash.
Oh, so
I just wanted to like acknowledge that I am normally more well spoken, but I literally can't because you are a king, and just like you have done so much for, like, if it's not even just like your representation on like your Netflix shows, but like your music is like, I understand to be like a form of like spoken word, and
Thank
like you have so many powerful things that you talk about and you address, and I have cried so many times listening to your songs because they just hit in such a deep way.
Thank
and
you.
So hearing how like you started in that fantastic cabaret strip club performative experience, and how it's so oftentimes things that like we don't plan for, like we didn't know it was going to happen, but then we hear something and we're like, oh, that feels cool. Why does that make me feel a little bit better? And then it just brings us to like, oh, gender identity isn't decided for us. Like, we get to choose that.
I have a choice. Yeah. Oh, this actually like feels good to me, and I want people to acknowledge this about me, and it makes me feel more seen, and like I finally am like fitting in even with myself, you know? Yeah, it's really cool how those things just sort of happen. And singing actually was like that for me too. Like, I spent my whole life as a dancer, and singing happened to me adjacent to dance as a effort to try and keep a dance job. And then I was like, oh, this feels so much more like me. And I'm really glad you said that about my songs and the like lyrics, because that's really what I care the most about. And I don't have like a lifetime of training to be a singer. All I know is like with acting and music, I want to get stories across. And so I trust my instincts with whether or not I'm able to do that. And yeah, that's pretty much my training.
So you're trained as a dancer?
Yeah.
Not a singer?
Yeah.
I'm going to leave, because even if I were trained in either of those, like, it wouldn't be a game over. Okay, so that makes so much sense, because I unfortunately have not been able to go to protests, but I have been living for videos that randomly come across my feed of Kat at protests with their signs dancing. And I was like, why are they so good at dancing? Like, I don't understand. So you're formally trained in dance.
Yes, I will say they didn't teach me how to dance that way. I learned that in clubs. But yes, that was most of my life. It was dance.
Wow. And so how did you stumbled across singing as a way to support yourself?
Yeah,
but like, even if I tried to support myself by writing and producing, I like, you just have a way of, with, it's not even just word, it's the music behind the words, but then you can hear in your voice like the story. Like, there's like performance, even though like if it's not a video, it's like also like the audio like is a story. Like, I can see it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I really feel like you know, like, we live in sort of a crazy time where you can make music at home, and you can like never step on a stage before you put out a record. Like some amazing artists like Lorde, for example, like put out a record so young without ever having to like tour or figure out how to perform or whatever. And sometimes that turns out great, and we still have amazing artists. But I feel sad about the way that the music industry is not like the 80s, where you like have to be a really captivating performer. You have to have like that necessarily to be successful. Like, a song can just like hit it big on TikTok before anybody ever tours or cares about performing. So that means a lot to me that you're saying that you can hear that there's like some performance or story in the record, because I really wanted it to feel like the performance aspect of it stays alive, and I really care about that part of it. So I can't wait for like a year from now when I get to tour again.
I cannot wait for when you come to Philly.
Yeah,
I will be screaming all all along. Oh
yes,
my god.
I can't wait to see you. That would be so good.
But this is a fantastic segue to talking about either the people or the experiences that have influenced your work and your story, because a lot of your music is very personal. Like I'm thinking of I have like 4 of your songs on repeat, but like For the Love is such an intense song. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is the song I like, regardless of the time of day or when I'm listening or how many times of a day, I cry every single time.
Oh.
And Testosterone has like repressed my ability to cry, but for
crying.
some reason, your music like helps me set myself free again. So
I love that. Thank you. Yeah, that song, you know, for anybody watching who hasn't heard it yet, is like a very intricate retelling of the fact that my mom came out way before me when I was young, and I was not very positive about that, because for me at the time it represented that my family was going to break up and I wasn't going to have structure, and you know, my mom was so crazy and I needed all that structure. Hey, that's Mickey.
Hi, Mickey.
Yeah.
Happy belated birthday.
Yeah, happy belated birthday. Thanks. I didn't really know what was going on. Sorry. Anyway, and then it's about, you know, how I like grew up and got a taste of my own medicine and fell in love with a girl, and obviously my whole perspective was changed, and it was such a cool story to write in a song format, because you have so few words. You have like 16 bars for a verse and then a pre-chorus, and then you get a bridge to go crazy, and it really like wrote itself so quickly. Like when I have something I really want to say, it does come out like poetry, and the format of a song or rhythm or whatever just sort of like captivates it all, or whatever, holds it captive, and like gives it a little place to live succinctly, which is so fun, because for stuff that means a lot to you, sometimes it's hard to find the words. And yeah, the song just really like got the song. It just came out of me right away.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. And like the funny thing is, like the day I wrote it, I was in the studio with the guy who I wrote it with, and we were both just like kind of having a moody day, and he was having an especially moody day, and I don't think he was even really listening to my lyrics. And, and so I was having this still very private experience singing the lyrics for the first time, which are the ones that stayed on the record. Like I pretty much always, the first time I write it, that's the performance I like, because I'm not thinking about being a better singer. I'm just thinking about the words and how
just
I want
the way that it's coming.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was a really important song for me to write. And I like that it, like, if you don't really listen to the lyrics, you're like, cool, this is a good song. And if you do, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, it's like very different, beautiful experiences.
Yeah. And that's what I love about pop music, is that like, and what I hope stays alive in pop music is that like it can be something that makes you bop your head, or like if you're drunk at a pride celebration, you can just dance. But also if you're listening where it's broken down, it's like a real story that I stand by when it's like more stripped down. And yeah, it's all true. And it's a very crazy story. That the thing that I didn't mention just now is that my mom's partner, who was also gay, who she lived with, whatever, died of cancer the day before gay marriage became legal in New York. And I have a very, very vivid memory of the Pride Parade that year, and just being both so happy for the growth of the nation, and so feeling so sad that we lost Joan, but also, you know, like feeling like it wasn't in vain or something, like her life really counted towards something before. And like movement and growth happened in her lifetime, or almost.
I've never had this happen before, but I have like goosebumps on my scalp. Wow. Yeah, that's the part of the song that always gets me, because just everything about it, but also the timing of it was just so.
Yeah, the idea of that type of serendipity and like that circularity in life, it makes you feel like life is magic in a way, you know, like they write that stuff for movies, you know. It's really crazy that it happened in real life. And that's the other thing I love about writing regular. What is Mickey even?
And Mickey is a part of your backdrop now.
Yeah.
Every once in a while.
The white and blue stripes just to like go for it. Yeah. We'll go back and forth one more time. We live in a railroad, so what are you gonna do?
Oh my gosh. And another thing that I just thought of that I wanted to ask you was that when you were talking about, this is like a completely different subject. My mind is like all over the place all the time. It's just how it is. But when you were talking about when you perform and you're like either like femme or like hyper femme, and like you understand it as more of drag, or like as a drag experience. And if I completely botched
No, that's true.
what I said, like, because that, when I describe, like I'll jokingly but also meaning, like I mean it, say like I spent my life doing drag and I am the world's best drag performer, because I fooled everybody.
Yeah.
So like, what's your experience? Like how would you like describe like how you, like your comfort level is like your dad, like your dad, but then you're also, when you perform, you have this incredible stage performance and energy that is very different than dad.
Yes,
or it's
true. I know,
it's modern dad.
Brand. Like, I'm not like dorky dad in my New Balances on stage. I'm like very like, I know that I like channel something that's like bigger and darker and otherworldly and powerful. But the drag side of things, just to address that really fast, like the feminine character, I think that, like, you know, for a long time after my body parts grew in that specified the feminine shape of my body, I really wanted to remove them. I wanted to stop eating so that I would be skinnier and look more like a boy. And I wanted to do a lot of things to change my body. And then I started to use my body parts in this character in performance. And I found it to be really fun. Like, I realized that my body receives a lot of attention for being like I have an enviable female body, apparently. And it's like fun to acknowledge that and be that like extra bodacious character that also is strong and also is acknowledging that when I express my sexuality, it's my choice. And then for me inside my head to be like, this isn't like, I didn't purchase these body parts, they're just here. And so like for me to feel like, you know, for me to identify as non-binary and to really identify with a lot of the more masculine things about me, but to carry these body parts, it's this really interesting thing that I think has an effect when I perform for people of like, wow, what a strong woman, which I don't hate, because like if that inspires you to embody your female body and to know that it doesn't necessarily make you fragile or it doesn't necessarily make you soft or whatever, like, then like I'm cool with inspiring that. That's just not really like what I feel inside. But yeah, it was very cathartic for me to learn that like my body can be a tool for expression and a tool for play. And I'm excited by the way that I can like lean into being androgynous and lean into being effeminate. It's harder for me to express what I visually wish I could in an androgynous or masculine way, because they just like don't go away. You know what I mean?
Yep. Oh, I had to chop them off.
You know, and I've thought about it a lot, and I think that like the older I get, the saggier they get, so they're like a little less cumbersome. And I like,
you're like, why are you bringing more attention to you now? Stop. Like we were working on it before. We found a method of engaging. Like, stop changing.
Yeah, no, it's good. The saggier they are, the easier they are to flatten. I'm cool with it.
True.
Yeah, boob talk. From Tiq Cunning. But anyway, so yeah, that's what the drag thing is just like embracing that, like, you know, the bones and the fat and whatever that carried me around is something that I can like play with and be friendly with for now. And it's fun to celebrate both sides of my gender spectrum as a performer. But really for me, what's coming out when I perform is just like whatever story I'm telling and whatever serves that story. And a lot of the time it's just like I feel strong and I feel super vulnerable as a form of strength. But, you know, it doesn't really have to do with the gender. The clothes always seem to tell that story a little bit more, which is like so hard when you have a super curvy body to find a way to convey your androgynous style, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And adding on to that, just like the fact that society will say that, oh, based on the clothes or our hair or the mannerisms that we use, like that's your gender, when it's like, no, like that's how I'm presenting. Like I have such flaming like femme energy within me, but my and I freaking love it, but my body is like, now it's the most masculine it's ever been, and it's allowed me to like be comfortable with my femininity.
Exactly. Balance is a big thing, you know, like, yeah, I totally get that. I feel like if I were to cut my hair off tomorrow, I'd probably start wearing more makeup. Like, I don't know, like every once in a while, like you have to find your balance and whatever makes you feel more comfortable. Yeah.
Yes. And I also like so much power to you for like looking at, like, if someone's like, oh, like it refers to you as a woman, but it's like, oh, like what a strong, like, I can't even say it, what a strong person, but you know,
Yeah.
and you like your response is like, I empowered that person. It's not like, oh, I was like, I'm not being seen. I'm like, or like people aren't understanding me for me, which may very well be like the internal dialogue. But like the fact that even though that may be part of your internal dialogue, like you see how much power and like strength like you are like putting into the world, like transfer some of that. Like I would love to not feel attacked every time someone says something that doesn't align with my identity. That is such a beautiful way.
It's hard, but like there's a big difference between somebody being like, yes, queen, like they're obviously trying to like amplify me, support me. They obviously love what I'm doing. And I can't deny that the presentation in like a photo that I get that type of comment on is usually like pretty Beyonce akin. You know what I mean? It's like usually very feminine, traditional, sexual. But it's more the interpersonal things where somebody just like refuses to try and get my pronoun. That like hurts for sure.
Yeah.
Like when it's an accident, you know, over and over again, I still try to have a lot of understanding for that because this is a new concept for most of the world. And if you have patience in your heart and you can be a liaison and you can teach, then like you should, because otherwise we're just going to be divided. That's how I feel, at least. But I definitely get tired of it. And like, and you can tell when somebody just like isn't making an effort, and that really sucks.
Yeah, no, and then that's when boundaries or open communication, or like honestly, sometimes we just need to cut people out of our lives that are not doing anything to benefit us.
Yeah,
so,
true.
But I'm gonna try and pull that page from your book so that I can I don't feel attacked as much. Oh my gosh, because Kat, my mind, okay, my brain has left my body.
You're doing great. Where do you want to come back to?
Well, I would love to. I have so many questions for you because like everything about your work is just so fascinating and beautiful, and I want to understand it all. And it's just like such a pleasure to get to ask you these questions and like share the like background of where all of this comes from. Like amazing. It's nothing I will ever experience in my lifetime. So hearing it from you is like the coolest thing ever. But so tell me some more about like who has inspired you, like especially like looking at where we are right now. We have 2020, COVID-19. We have people are finally listening on a not just like, oh, this shiny thing in the news that we're going to look at once, but like are actually starting to pay attention to racial inequality and the injustices that people of color have experienced in the United States, especially considering that the United States is a society built on slavery and white supremacy, which I can get into more later. But
you're gonna preach, you're gonna teach.
Yes, so many things. But like I, especially now in this moment of wanting to amplify melanated voices and to really show the world like this information. Not only this information has been out here, but there have been Black, like queer, trans creators, artists, musicians, writers, poets, like since existence. Like this has been everywhere, but especially now, at least social media has taken it upon itself to like amplify those voices and like show us like people have been talking about the experiences of what institutionalized trauma means, or what like a what is it called, like political consciousness that is like connected to your ancestors, right? And like how that impacts your everyday life. Like it's in songs, it's in dance, it's in like TV shows. And so long story short, I would love to hear about some of your influences.
Okay, great. I love this conversation. I want to start by saying that I know that like a lot of this is a really exciting moment for this movement in terms of it just like being so fucking clear for the first time that white people need to do their part. And this is not like a time to be silent and stand out of the way and be like, oh, okay, it's not my job to speak up on this. Like we need to talk to each other so that Black people don't have to educate us.
And if you are that person saying that it is not your job, that is an example that it is your job, that you should be educating yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Talk about it. But yeah, this has been like, obviously, hopefully to all people, a thing that's important, but it's something that I've tried to be involved in, you know, honestly, since I moved to New York and realized that like there's culture in America. Like I come from Oregon, first of all, which is like a state that chose not to have Black people. When they had the choice, I'm not a historian, but like, look it up. They basically were just like, we'll skip Black people. So I learned a lot about slavery and didn't have any Black people around me. And coming to New York, I was like, whoa, the Roots, I've never heard of them. And like, just like was like bombarded and excited by Black culture and music and art and everything. And so, anyway, I've tried to like educate myself and do my part. And I feel really passionately about how, little people know and about how important this movement is. And one of the coolest organizations I was a part of was called Black and it was a live performance series that was geared toward people who identify as Black and something. So there's like Black and queer, Black and trans, Black and an immigrant, or whatever. Like essentially it was like get in the conversation, Black people and Black culture is an intersectional thing. And one of the ways that they involved people was having, everyone who participated celebrate the work of a Black artist. So like I sang a song by a Black writer, and it gave me this awesome opportunity to research two of my hugest influences. One of them is not a direct influence because I don't like really do what this person does, but they're like in the back of my everyday inspiration. Her name is Storme DeLarverie, and I'm gonna show you a little just like image of how fucking hot she is. Wait, that's just me. Wait, okay, look at that.
Yes, I literally made a post. I have her in one of my posts for Pride.
Okay,
how
so
freaking dap, yo! Oh my god!
So, and like in the beginning of that, in the beginning of like women dressing in suits, like Storme sort of like made that cool in the Village. And like, it's rumored that she threw the first punch in the Stonewall riots, and it's like sort of funny that it's rumored because some people were like, she didn't. She's like, I did.
Yeah, she's probably like, yeah, that was me. No.
That was fucking me. And I'm also really directly inspired by her because, she took this drag identity to stage in cabarets in this place called the Jewel Box Theater, where people would go. It's like so cool to read about queer history like this and queer performance art like this, especially with like Black people and POC people, because that history has just like been written out. Like we never talk about queer Black.
Like there are archives. Like,
yeah,
we need to go into those archives.
They were their shit. And they were celebrated. It wasn't like something that the culture was so afraid of. People, straight and gay would go to this club to be like the rumored, girl who looks like a man. Which one is she? Thing that lots of people participated in. And anyway, iconic for taking this drag look not only out on the stage but in the streets. And the other thing that I really love about her is that she's like a very important, like she's the heartbeat of the Village. Like after she threw the first punch, and that was like her claim to fame, being so dapper and gorgeous, she just stuck around in the Village as a bodyguard, but she likes to call herself a babysitter of her queer babies at lesbian clubs. She was the bouncer at Cubbyhole, and then she was also the bouncer at various other clubs. But she just like stuck around and walked through the Village as one of the last like original gay superheroes until she died at 93. Like, what an amazing story.
That is incredible.
She just like gave us so much, and she's just like the hottest hottie there ever was.
And like even her picture is like radiating like big dick energy. It's like I don't think I've seen a single person right now that has that like confidence and strength, and it's just like, I'm who I fucking am. Yeah, it's fantastic.
The first person with the idea or like, I'm sure there were other people who wore suits before her, but it's a pretty dangerous thing to choose to do all the time on the street at that time.
Especially when it was illegal to like present as the other like gender or sex.
Yeah, and like she did it just so beautifully. And then I thought I would share this other photo that the Times has of her closer to her death. I don't know how old she is here, but it's a picture of her in her bouncer days, and that's her before she started presenting as masculine, and then what the fuck, like what a hottie.
That picture in her old age carries the same, like even stronger, like I can still fuck you up. Like, yeah, don't just like
such confidence, such a like,
yeah,
fucks, and like yeah, you just don't fuck with Stormy. And I'm just like so grateful that she existed. And I feel like her spirit is the spirit that made me want to move to New York. You know, people like her. So
That is so beautiful, Kat. Oh my God.
and then I have two other people that I wanted to talk about. And
Yes.
one of them, because a lot of people don't think of this person as being queer unless you're hip, you know. Billie Holiday is a bisexual icon who is known
Ooh.
for her marriage to multiple men, but also for dating strictly movie stars, like Tallulah Bankhead, and who also are the other ones? There's another really good one in there. Tallulah Bankhead, Louise Crane, and Greta Garbo. Like, what? I wish that I was at the party after their date. I wish that I had been in that threesome. Like, what a dreamy situation. And, you know, that she is. And she's one of the, you know, more famous, super, super feminine icons, and you just don't even think. But she was openly bisexual. Like, that's a history that was, you know, that was written out of the history they told me. So.
Yeah, like I did not even know. Like, you are telling me, you are educating me, which is just another like just nasty example of the erasure of like bi identities and people and stories.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
also like, oh, like I only date like famous people. Like I only date like supermodels and actors, and I'm like go
super
off.
feminine, like icons. Like, how hot is that power couple? But yeah,
I love
like
how every single person you're talking about is so confident. Love it.
Yeah, of course. Like, wow. Yeah, I feel like that's the thing that's written out mostly, is that like these people had power. They weren't just like they had enough power to walk around and be themselves. And our history like seems to be so pendulous. Like, we swing from being really, really accepting of things to like, let's rewrite that they never had that right. Like, queer people have like had rights given and taken away or lost, you know, like over and over again. And we're kind of like sometimes just moving backwards. Like right now, to even consider some of the things that are being considered with this president, you know, it's like, what is this, the 40s? Like, they really knew what they were doing in the 70s. Can we stay there? Like,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Retweet.
And then lastly, just to like throw a contemporary one in there, my life was changed by Janelle Mona. You know,
Who's
like
hasn't?
Whose hasn't? But in the original, like Tightrope, and just seeing a girl in a suit again, like I knew about her obviously before I did about Stormy, and I was so young. And like when I saw Tightrope and when I saw Janelle Monáe always in a suit, I was just like, thank you, like thank you for being out here and for committing to that as like your look for so many years. And then obviously she's like given us like a much gayer album since then. But I just like as an artist and a fully fledged performer with so many different like talents and just charisma, I'm so excited that she exists.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you for bringing those top 3 to the table.
Did I do a good job? Did I do a good report?
Yes. Yes, I give you an A+.
Okay, great.
You got it.
But like 4.0.
Like I need to be affirmed in everything that I do, so hopefully that was good affirmation.
It was good, yeah, and I do too. I'm also very needy, but I don't have any problem with just like asking for it very clearly. I'll be like, tell me I look cute, and then it counts.
I need to be on that level.
Do it.
I just kind of am like, what do they think about me? I need to be like, so what are we talking about over
like,
here?
I look good, right? I look fucking good, right?
So good. So good. Fire.
What about you?
Confidence.
Do you want to tell me about any of your favorite people? It's a report.
Yes. Well, I am not a musician, but for me, when I think of like queer Black influences of mine, I think mainly about whether it's like performances, if that's like modeling or runway or dance. But a lot of times I think of like spoken word, even just like people who like write articles about like lived experience.
Yeah.
And so like for me, like that would be like Tiq Milan, who is a Black trans man, outspoken, like so like his writing is just like, if you do not know him, please look him up. Incredible person. And like I'm thinking, if you know of GC2B, it's like a binder company for like folks who want to like compress their chest. Yes. Like truly, like one of my heroes is Marli Washington, and he is the the founder, creator, and designer. He's the person that designed binders, and he is a person of color who is trans, who went to art school and created these designs for trans people because he saw that it was needed. And he has not only provided like materials that are like truly life-saving for people, but also the platform and the community that he created with the visibility and people showing just like how just they're like, I'm fucking beautiful and this binder makes me feel fantastic. And it's just created such a positive platform in the community, not only with the materials, but with the visibility. And I am friendly with so many of the people who are on the GC2B team, and they are all queer, trans, like people of color who are actively working to support like marginalized people in our society. And so like they are always like, whenever I think of like who are like my influences, like Marli always comes to mind. Amazing. And then another person who I want to make sure I don't forget is Devin-Norelle. Devin-Norelle uses Z/Zere pronouns, and Z is not only just like one of the most attractive human beings in the world and does modeling and just beautiful. Like when I talk about modeling, I always say like my body is like a human canvas. Do whatever you want to it. Like make me mask, make me femme. Like I literally like let's make this work. Let's make art out of human bodies.
You can do,
yeah. And I just think that Devin-Norelle, like Zere's work is just so powerful. I really don't even have the words. It's so beautiful. It's so powerful. And Z is not afraid to show who they are. And I'm sorry if I'm like messing up the pronouns. I've been practicing. It's not working too well. But we're trying because we try. And another myth real quick to bust is that I am not perfect. People who talk openly about our identities, we are not perfect. We are learning every day. Just had to put that in there.
And I think all the time too. Yeah, for everybody listening, nobody's perfect is a new idea in the new world.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm so glad you asked, because those three people they always just like make me feel seen and heard and empowered, and honestly just like I'm not alone. Like there are people here that are just so authentic and open and vulnerable, and like if Tiq and Marli, and although to be honest, Marli likes not to be on like the forefront. He like for a long time he was like, I don't want people to know that I'm behind GC2 because I don't want to take away from the movement. But I am really glad that like he did eventually say like, hey, I'm the person behind this, because he's shared his story with his wife and like their life, and pretty much just like such inspiring people. Please look into the three people I talked about, the three people that Kat talked about, because these are some people that are trailblazers. They are people that are inspiring. They are passionate. They are fighters. And we all need a little bit of that energy in our life.
So real. So true. Yes. And obviously to wrap it up, right? Like freaking support Black artists and Black organizations and just keep doing what you can. And also obviously it's valid to have conversations with other white people to educate each other so that we don't exhaust the Black people that are out here working hard.
Yeah, exactly. Because so for instance, like we are engaging in this conversation about just our lives in general, but we can also make a very purposeful conversation within that conversation to address our influence, like people who have influenced us who are Black people, Black or people of color who are queer. And so if you are someone who's like, oh, but I just don't know how to mix in this race topic with my there is always a way.
It's everywhere.
To address race.
It's everywhere. This country is defined by Black culture and built on the backs of Black people. Like just look,
especially music.
Like, listen to the songs you listen to. Yeah, for real. Before I ever made a record, I was like, I had a jazz blues band. Like all the music I played was like Billie Holiday-esque standards. I know it's pretty lit. I sometimes am like, I should release that music. But yeah, I mean, my love for music comes from my love of so many Black artists, like almost exclusively. And I think a lot of people feel that way when it comes to music. Like how many people do you know that just like, I don't listen to country, I don't listen to pop, I listen to hip hop, I listen to soul. You know what I'm saying? Like there are so many of us that are not guilty of that, but that's what we love because it's really fucking great music. So acknowledging that that's a part of your life and finding ways to celebrate that or support those is a really valuable valid way to be in the conversation.
Yes. And also for anyone who has more specific questions about, well, how do I bring up race in a like general conversation, or like who are some artists that I can look into that are talking about like police brutality or talking about what it's like to be a Black trans woman in America right now, please send me a DM, send me an email, whatever it is. I have tons of resources. I also have a ton of, if you click the link in my bio, I have multiple different links for petitions to sign, emails to send out, numbers to call, places to donate, businesses to support that are all Black owned businesses, that are all businesses that are small businesses run by people of color, because as white people, we are a part of this conversation. The reason why nothing has changed is because white people aren't talking about it. So Kat, I thank you so much for joining us for this conversation.
My pleasure. I love
you're
hanging
such
out
a
with
light. You're such a light. Goddamn. Thank you for brightening my day.
I love you. You're also a joy. Thanks for having me.
Stay safe. Thanks so much, Kat. Have a good one.
Bye, you guys.
Bye.
Stay well.
Thanks everyone for joining.
I don't know how to get out. Oh, bye.
I got you. Bye.